Alright, we're moving into the more tools, and the next one we're going to be covering is the rotate tool on down, probably to the perspective grid, we'll see. Okay, so rotate tool is pretty dang simple. It does exactly what it says it's going to do. As I've mentioned before, there's other ways that you can rotate things. You don't need the rotate tool technically. All you need to do is to select it with the selection tool, and then you can go to the far corner, just off the corner. If you hit the corner itself, it thinks you want to make it larger, but if you're off to the edge of it, right past it, then you get the twisting arrow, and you can of course then twist as your will. But if you want a really specific angle, then you might want to go ahead and double click on the icon, and for this one you will need the object actually selected before you do it. So go ahead and have the object selected, then you can double click on the rotate tool, and then accordingly go ahead and punch in the stuff that you think you want. Now if you click this preview button, it does help you to see, maybe, if you're like, well, I'm pretty sure that's 50 degrees, well, you can actually see it take place if you've clicked the preview button. So that's just one little thing to consider. Same thing goes for the reflect tool. You need it selected, and then just twist it, and it'll kind of move around at the angle that you wish it to be. And there is not another shortcut way to get that. It is not an automatic thing that will happen simply with the selection tool. You will have to actually choose that. Or you can also, I'm trying to remember which one to do it. I don't usually do it this way. If you go to Object and Transform, you can also get it over here under Reflect. And okay, I think that one covers that one. Moving on to the next side, we've got a couple different ones. Yours will look like this. That's the default. This is the first one in the set, always shows up unless you've used it recently. So the scale tool, again, you don't technically need to use a scale tool unless you have a really specific amount you have to use, because you can always, again, go select it with the selection tool, go to the corner, hold the shift key down, and then size proportionally. But again, if you double click on an object that has been chosen, let me back up. Choose the object, double click on your icon for the scale tool, and then you can appropriately change it. Most of the time you'll probably do uniform, but at times you might want something fatter or slimmer, taller or wider than at the other side. So it's possible you want non-uniform, but most of the time you're going to scale corners and the effects and everything else too. And again, if you want to see the change, go ahead and hit preview as you make that change happen. I'm not going to bother with that one though. The shear tool is a little bit odd in my opinion. It's kind of like a distort tool. I don't really use it. You might find there's other ways to do those kinds of changes, but that one is what it does. Reshape tool is a little bit tricky. I have found it does not work for shapes, but it works for line. So for example, if I go ahead and draw a line here, if I use the shape tool on the line, I can actually curve it without going up to the pen tools and trying to refigure anything out. It actually adds points for me. I'm not sure why they stuck it way over here in this zone. It should be with some of the pen, like this thing that also affects the pen points. So anyway, it does not work on shapes, but it works on line as far as I've ever been able to use it. Coming on down, we've got this set that's kind of a funky set. For this one, I'll choose an actual chunk shape that's got some chunk to it so you can see what happens. I'm not going to go through all of these because you'll get the idea real quick about how they function. For this one, it's very, very wide right now, so I might double click and actually affect the change on it, because this is blown up to 800, so it's very, very huge right now. So at least you can kind of see. Oh gosh. Let me zoom out even further. So you can see the size of that brush, and it will change, it kind of warps things for you. Some of them are more obvious and crazy than others, like that one. I don't know why you'd need that, but go ahead and mess around with these different ones. There might be times where you find it very helpful for something extremely specific. I've not yet found that to be the case, but you might. And finally, over here we also have a shape related item, or I should say a scale related item in many ways. So this guy here, when you click on that tool, you should get this other set. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that one. That one's for later. So you go ahead and select the object and then hit the free transform tool, and you get these options here. Constrain means, you know, if you do something to one side, again, it's going to do it to the other. Unconstrained with a slash through it means it will not. You can choose corners and it will only affect a side or a corner for the free transform tool. The perspective is a little bit different. You know, it'll make this probably isn't the kind of the best shape, so you can see that perspective changing. Let me go ahead and make a super simplistic box so you get the idea a little bit faster. So for this one, I'll go ahead and use the perspective tool, and if I turn on the corner, you can kind of see what's happening there. It's as if you were looking at a building down if this was a wall, and you can change all sorts of things. Go in, go out, and this one is a free distort where it will change corners, so not just one side or not a pair of sides, but one corner by itself can be changed. So you might work in, perhaps you'll work with those together, but likely they'll be separated. I'm going to skip over this one because I'll have it be its own, yeah, I'll have each of these be their own.